In the year 79 AD, beneath the roaring crowds of Rome's greatest arena, a 19-year-old Dacian woman named Livia stood chained in darkness. She was listening to the thunder of 50,000 voices celebrating the gladiator who had just slaughtered her brothers. What happened to her in the next 3 hours would become Rome's most carefully buried secret, a practice so brutal that even the empire's own chroniclers debated whether to record it. This is the story that Roman senators tried to erase from history. The dark reward that turned victory into a license for the unspeakable, and the truth about what spoils of war really meant when the sand turned red and the gates closed behind the champions. Before we unveil what happened in those underground chambers, hit that like button if you've ever wondered what really happened after the crowds went home. Subscribe, because what comes next will fundamentally change how you see ancient Rome. And comment below, did Roman entertainment go too far, or was this simply the cost of empire? What you're about to hear is not legend. It is documented in the writings of Cassius Dio, verified by archaeological excavations beneath the Colosseum conducted in 2018, and corroborated by Senate records discovered in the Vatican archives. This is the documented practice that Rome's elite considered entertainment. Across the breadth of the Roman Empire, the Colosseum stood as humanity's monument to spectacle and savagery. The massive stone amphitheater, completed just 1 year earlier in AD 80, could swallow entire armies into its belly. The air inside perpetually carried the metallic tang of blood, mixed with the acrid smell of animal waste and human sweat. Sand covered the arena floor, not for decoration, but to absorb the fluids that poured from dying men and beasts. Beneath that sand lay a labyrinth, a maze of tunnels, cages, and chambers where Rome stored its most valuable commodities: the condemned, the captured, and the conquered. In the shadow of imperial triumph, gladiatorial games served a purpose far beyond mere entertainment. They were political theater, religious ritual, and social control, all wrapped into one blood-soaked package. When General Marcus Antonius returned from crushing the Dacian rebellion in 78 AD, he brought with him not just gold and territory, but 847 prisoners, among them 124 women from the tribal aristocracy. These weren't common peasants. They were daughters of chieftains, wives of warriors, priestesses of foreign gods. Rome didn't just defeat its enemies, it needed to humiliate them, to break their spirit so thoroughly that even the memory of resistance would die. Gaius Valerius Maximus, at 32 years old, stood 6 feet tall, a giant by Roman standards. His body was a canvas of scars, each one representing a fight survived, an opponent killed, a crowd satisfied. Born into slavery after his father's execution for debt, Gaius had spent 14 years in the arena. He had killed 89 men in sanctioned combat. What he wanted most was the wooden sword, the rudis, that would grant him freedom. What he feared most was dying nameless, just another corpse dragged out by the hooks.
But on this particular afternoon in August of 79 AD, he had just defeated the champion of the Dacian prisoners in front of Emperor Titus himself. His reward was standard for a gladiator of his rank: 500 denarii, a laurel crown, and first choice of the captivi, the female captives. Livia was 19, with the distinctive dark hair and pale skin of the Dacian highlands. Before the Roman legions burned her village, she had been betrothed to a warrior named Decebalus. She had watched Roman soldiers cut him down 3 months earlier. Now she stood in a holding cell with 17 other women, all of them torn from their lives, their families slaughtered, their futures erased. She wanted nothing except to die with dignity. She feared becoming entertainment for the mob that had just celebrated her people's destruction. That morning, a guard had told her she'd been selected for the afternoon spectacle. She didn't know what that meant. She was about to discover that Rome's definition of mercy was far more terrifying than its definition of cruelty. Divite complacat.
What was at risk wasn't just individual lives. It was the very foundation of Roman psychological warfare. The empire had learned that physical conquest wasn't enough. To truly break a people, you had to destroy their symbols, corrupt their sacred traditions, and demonstrate that even their most protected, their women, were now Rome's playthings. This wasn't random cruelty. It was calculated dehumanization. The spectacle of powerlessness reinforced to every conquered nation. Resistance was futile, and defeat was total. At precisely 3 p.m., as shadows lengthened across the blood-soaked sand, the master of games descended into the hypogeum, the underground complex. In the torchlit corridor that smelled of damp stone and fear, he approached Gaius Maximus with a bronze tablet listing the available rewards. The gladiators' hands were still trembling from combat adrenaline. "The Emperor acknowledges your victory," the official intoned. "By imperial decree and ancient custom, you are entitled to the spoils of conquest. Select your reward." The tablet listed options: money, wine, a night in a proper bed, or what they called victoria carnalis, the carnal privilege of victory. For a slave who owned nothing, who could be killed on a whim, this represented one of the few moments of power in an otherwise powerless existence. Roman society not only permitted this, it celebrated it as the natural order. The conquered existed for the pleasure of the conqueror. Meanwhile, in the women's holding cell, a different kind of preparation was underway. Guards entered with buckets of water, not for drinking, but for washing. The women were scrubbed, their hair untangled, their torn clothing replaced with simple tunics. Livia watched as attendants worked through the group, examining each woman, making notes on wax tablets. One older woman, a priestess named Zelmoxis, whispered the truth they all dreaded. "They're making us presentable. For the games or for after?" In the amphitheater above, 50,000 spectators were settling in for the afternoon's secondary entertainment. Between major bouts, the arena masters staged what they called theatrical interludes, mock battles, hunts, and what Roman historians delicately termed mythological reenactments. These often included condemned prisoners forced to act out scenes from mythology, usually ending in actual death, dressed up as divine entertainment. But today's program had a special feature: the triumph of Rome over barbarian shame. At 3:30, 20 Dacian women, including Livia, were led up through the underground elevator system, an engineering marvel designed to deliver fighters, animals, and props directly onto the arena floor through trapdoors. Livia emerged into blinding sunlight and deafening noise. The crowd's roar hit like a physical force. She could smell roasting meat from vendors, perfume from the aristocratic sections, and underneath it all, the copper stink of dry blood on hot sand. A herald announced their crimes: resistance to Roman authority, harboring rebels, refusing to acknowledge Roman gods. Then came the twist. They would be given a chance to earn mercy by fighting each other in pairs, armed with wooden swords, wearing torn clothing meant to maximize humiliation. The victors would be claimed by champions of Rome. The losers would die.
The wooden swords were distributed. Livia gripped hers. Across from her stood Chamaisicus, a woman who had taught Livia how to weave, who had sung at her betrothal ceremony. Their eyes met. The crowd screamed for blood. The master of games raised his hand and dropped it. Neither woman moved. The crowd's roar shifted from excitement to confusion to anger. "Fight!" they screamed. "Barbarian cowards!" Missiles began raining down. Olive pits, chicken bones, refuse. Still, the women stood motionless, wooden swords at their sides. It was the most powerful act of resistance available to the powerless: refusal. For 90 seconds, the most powerful empire on Earth was defied by two unarmed women standing still. Then, the guards moved in. What should have been theater became brutal reality. Chamaisicus was struck from behind with the flat of a gladius. She fell. The crowd cheered. Livia screamed and rushed to her side, dropping her wooden sword. The guards dragged them both away, not to execution, but to something the crowd found equally entertaining. This level of calculated cruelty is stunning. If you agree that these hidden histories need to be told, please subscribe to the channel. The next part of this story reveals the bureaucratic nightmare that happened after the arena and the one act of defiance that challenged the entire system. In the hypogeum, the administrative machinery of exploitation ground forward. A scribe recorded in official ledgers. 20 female captives, Dacian origin, processed for post-victory allocation. Another notation, 2, resistant, transferred to private chambers for champions' exclusive use as per tradition. Livia and Chamaisicus were separated. Each was taken to a different chamber. Small rooms with stone benches, iron rings set into the walls, and doors that locked from the outside. The rooms were well lit, clean, and utterly terrifying in their mundane efficiency. This wasn't some dark dungeon of improvised horror. These were purpose-built spaces, part of the arena's architecture, as planned as the tunnels for lions, or the elevators for gladiators. Gaius Valerius Maximus entered Livia's chamber at 4 p.m. The door opened, their eyes met, silence fell. He was still in his arena armor, blood, not his own, splattered across his chest. She was backed against the far wall, weaponless, exhausted. Between them was the abyss of Roman law. He had every legal right to whatever he chose to do. She had no rights at all. She was property, spoils, a reward earned in blood. Historical records don't tell us what Gaius felt in that moment. Did he see a human being? Did he see a victory trophy? Did he question the system that made him both victim and perpetrator? We only know what happened next, and then the unthinkable. Gaius removed his helmet. He set down his sword. He sat on the stone bench, head in his hands. For 5 minutes, an eternity measured in heartbeats. He said nothing. Livia remained frozen, every muscle tensed for a violence that didn't come.
Finally, he spoke in broken Dacian, learned from other prisoners. What was his name? Whose name? The man they made you watch die. This warrior I killed today. No, she whispered. A different one. 3 months ago. Gaius nodded slowly. I killed a Decibalist today. Maybe a brother, maybe a cousin. Your people love that name. What followed was not the assault Rome's system expected, but a conversation. 2 people the empire had tried to strip of humanity. He told her about his father, executed for debt when Gaius was 9. She told him about her village burning. 2 hours passed. Guards checked twice, heard talking, assumed compliance, and left them alone. At 6 p.m., Gaius made a decision that would cost him everything. He stood, walked to the door, and called for the guard. This woman is sick, he announced, his voice carrying the authority of a champion. Contaminated. I reject her. Take her to the physician. It was the only loophole in the system. Diseased rewards could be refused and returned to general prisoner status. The lie was transparent. The guard knew it, but the system had its rules, and refusing a gladiator's claim was bureaucratically simpler than investigating his motives. Livia was removed to the medical holding area. The immediate consequence? She died anyway, 3 days later. Not from violence, but from infection. A common death in Roman captivity. The medical holding area was overcrowded, unsanitary, and indifferent. The very mercy that spared her from one horror delivered her to another. Gaius never saw her again.
Gaius Maximus fought twice more that month. He won both times. He refused rewards both times. Rumors spread through the gladiatorial barracks. Maximus had gone soft, had converted to one of those strange Eastern religions that preached mercy, had been cursed by Dacian witchcraft. In truth, he had simply remembered he was human. And then the storm broke. On September 15th, 79 AD, Senator Quintus Aurelius Cyronicus stood before the Senate with a formal complaint. His nephew, a junior gladiator, had been beaten by his trainer for refusing the traditional rewards after victory. The nephew claimed he'd been inspired by Maximus's example. The case was trivial, except that it forced the Senate to acknowledge publicly what everyone knew existed. According to accounts preserved in the Senate records, a heated debate ensued regarding the propriety of certain practices related to defeated female captives. That bland language concealed a brutal 4-hour argument. The conservative faction argued tradition. Our ancestors conquered their enemies utterly, body and soul. This made Rome great. The Reform faction, influenced by Stoic philosophy and pragmatic concerns, countered, "We create martyrs and fuel resistance. Dead rebels can't breed more rebels, but traumatized survivors return home with stories that ignite generations of hatred."
The decisive factor wasn't morality, it was politics. 3 provincial governors had reported increased rebellion activity, specifically citing Roman treatment of captive women as recruiting propaganda for anti-Roman resistance. The empire was hurting itself. On October 1st, 79 AD, the Senate passed what historians call the Lex Captivi, the law of captive women. Its provisions were narrow but revolutionary. Female prisoners of war could no longer be used as rewards in public spectacles. Private exploitation continued. The law didn't free anyone, but the public theater of humiliation ended. Enforcement was spotty, but the principle was established. Even Rome had limits, at least in public. Gaius Valerius Maximus was granted his freedom 3 months later, not from mercy, but for winning 5 more consecutive fights. His final recorded act as a free man was purchasing and freeing one Dacian woman from slavery. Historical records list her name simply as Commuse. Whether she was the same woman who stood beside Livia in the arena remains unconfirmed, but strongly suspected. The tragedy isn't that Rome was cruel. Cruelty defined ancient warfare. The tragedy is that Rome systematized it, bureaucratized it, turned human suffering into efficient entertainment with supply chains and record-keeping. Centuries later, in 2018, archaeologists from the University of Rome, led by Dr. Isabella Fortunato, excavated the hypogeum beneath the Colosseum's eastern section. They discovered something the tourist maps don't show: a network of small rooms, 10 by 10 feet, with iron rings set into the walls, drainage channels cut into the floors, and on the stone, scratch marks. Desperate fingers seeking purchase, seeking escape, seeking any proof they had ever existed. Carbon dating confirmed these rooms were original to the 80 AD construction, purpose-built. They found pottery fragments used for carrying water, suggesting prolonged occupation. Most telling, they found 6 bronze identification tags stamped with the word captiva, and dates ranging from 79 to 82 AD. Dr. Fortunato's team compared these findings with textual evidence. Cassius Dio's historical writings from the 3rd century explicitly describe chambers for the allocation of conquered women. Tacitus, usually graphic in describing Roman brutality, was oddly silent on specifics, leading scholars to suspect even he found it too disturbing to chronicle. Why does this still matter? Because it shows how civilizations justify cruelty through law, tradition, and entertainment. Rome wasn't uniquely evil, but it was uniquely efficient at institutionalizing evil. This tragedy teaches us that the distance between civilization and barbarism isn't measured in technology or architecture, but in how we treat the powerless. Rome built aqueducts that still stand, while simultaneously building purpose-built rape chambers under its entertainment venues. Engineering genius and moral bankruptcy coexisted seamlessly.
It reveals how power distorts humanity. Gaius was a simultaneous victim, enslaved, forced to kill, and perpetrator, granted power over someone even more helpless. The system made monsters of people who might have been neighbors. Picture Livia's last conscious thought, dying of infection in a cell beneath the greatest architectural achievement of her era. Did she wonder if anyone would remember? Did she imagine archaeologists 2 millennia later would find her people's identification tags and speak their names? History's darkest chapters teach us that progress isn't inevitable and that civilization is fragile. Rome chose spectacle. The cost was counted in lives forgotten, but the lesson survives in the ruins beneath the sand. A gladiator's victory became a license for dehumanization. A routine reward system became Rome's most carefully buried scandal. And one woman's name, Livia, survived only because a gladiator made an unusual choice. A choice that accomplished nothing except proving humanity could flicker, even in Rome's darkest corners. Hit the bell for our next investigation into the Colosseum's hidden chambers, where we'll explore what happened to the 5,000 animals slaughtered in the arena's opening games, and why archaeologists found human bones mixed with theirs. Tell us in the comments what unsettled you most, the systematic nature of the exploitation or Rome's efficiency at making it routine. Next time, we investigate the Vestal virgins who were buried alive, except one of them might have been framed by an emperor seeking political revenge. The evidence just discovered changes everything historians thought they knew. Until then, remember, history's darkest secrets are often hidden beneath civilization's greatest monuments. The blood on the sand wasn't always from battle. Sometimes it was from innocence turned spectacle.